Welcome to Oklahoma Music Legends. I'm your host, Tommy Henshaw. In our previous 24 episodes, we've explored Oklahoma music makers, who were singers, songwriters, performers, and personalities. To celebrate our 25th episode, we chose to combine someone who embodies all of the above and more. I'm so proud to tell you about a true Oklahoma music icon, everybody's friend, Billy Parker. Please stand by for the story. Taking a song line from another Oklahoma music maker, Blake Shelton, "Man, I've been there." This Oklahoma music legend truly has been there. Born in Okemah, Oklahoma in 1939, Billy Parker shares his birthplace with another Oklahoma music maker, Woody Guthrie. Billy grew up in Tuskegee, Oklahoma. Billy said his inspiration for music came when he and his father traveled to Tulsa to attend a Hank Williams Sr. show at the famed Brady Theater. He said they had to peek around support beams to get a glimpse of old Hank. As a child, Billy began plucking around on the guitar, getting pretty good, and started playing and singing when he was 11. He started performing professionally at dances around home when he was only 14 years old. Years later, he moved to Tulsa, where he took a job at Quick Trip and continued playing music wherever he could find an opportunity. He said he was sweeping the floor at store number 6 when he heard on radio station KFMJ. That was the radio station they were listening to in the store. And he heard they were looking for someone to be a part-time disc jockey. He put his broom away and he asked the store manager if he could just zip over to the radio station. This was in 1959, and he was hired to be a part-time disc jockey there on KFMJ. But when one of the regulars continuously failed to show up for work, Billy was promoted to a full-time disc jockey at the station. Billy did both radio and local television while still performing at dance shows around the area nearly every weekend. Being on the air full-time gave him a forum to promote his upcoming shows. Billy left KFMJ for better radio opportunities at both Oklahoma City's KLPR and in Wichita's famed KFDI, where in 1963 he won a nationwide poll naming him Mr. DJ, which landed him a guest DJ spot on famed WSM radio station in Nashville, home of the Grand Ole Opry. Later in the 60s, country music icon Ernst Tubb, leader of his band, the Texas Troubadours, called on Billy asking him if he would be the front man for his show band, which means he would open the show, perform, and warm up the crowd before Ernst took the stage. Billy left radio and accepted the job, touring with Ernst Tubb, often referred to as the king of the one-nighters. After a couple of years became grueling, with the constant travel and being away from home and his family, except for a few weeks a year, became too much for Billy. Luckily, in 1971, the 50,000-watt clear channel monster KVOO, located back home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, came calling, asking him would he accept a disc jockey job on their station. He left Ernst Tubb and returned to work as a DJ while still continuing to record and perform live shows. After only 3 years at KVOO, the Country Music Association awarded him with his first National Disc Jockey of the Year award. The following year, the Academy of Country Music followed suit, awarding him with their 1975 Disc Jockey of the Year award. The Academy of Country Music again bestowed this honor upon him in following years of 1977, 1978, and 1984. He has been awarded the Country Music Disc Jockey of the Year award a total of 5 times. In 1990, he was awarded the Country Personality Award for the International Gospel Music Association. In 1992, he was inducted into the Country Music Disc Jockey Hall of Fame. In 1993, he was inducted into the Western Swing Hall of Fame. Billy also received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters in 1995. In 2005, Billy was inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame along with fellow Oklahomans Tommy Alsop and Toby Keith. Oklahoma music legend Reba McEntire said the very first time she heard one of her songs on the radio was when she was listening to the Billy Parker Show on KVOO. He was on the air continuously in Tulsa on KVOO, where he has played the latest, greatest, and some of the best oldie country music and interviewed some of the biggest names in country music for 44 consecutive years. For a while, Billy's show was on the overnight shift there at KVOO, and with its 50,000 watts of clear channel power, his show could be heard out in the states that border the Pacific coast and just past the states that border the Mississippi River. Needless to say, he had fans and still has fans all over this country. Between 1976 through 1989, he had recorded 3 albums and had a total of 23 charting records. By the way, you can see him performing many of them today on YouTube. It was while Billy was on KFMJ that I first became acquainted with him. You see, my mother was a big fan, and listening to Billy Parker at my house was required listening every afternoon. Every day I'd come home from school and I'd hear Billy Parker on the radio. As fate would have it, a family member was acquainted with him and asked me would I like to meet him in studio. I was picked up after school and away we went to the KFMJ studio that was located in downtown Tulsa. This was in 1959 and I was 7 years old. We walked into the studio and there he was himself, and this microphone hanging from a support of some kind. I was peering over the console when the song quit playing, and here's the rest of the story. Billy said, "Folks, we have a special guest in the studio with us today, Tommy Henshaw Jr." Folks, I was struck dumb. He said, "Tommy, is there anybody you'd like to say hi to?" To which I said, "Nope," which is the first word I ever spoke on radio. His comeback to me was, "Well, wouldn't you like to say hi to your mom?" My reply, "Nope." His response was, "Well, why not?" My reply at that moment has been a source of laughs we have shared for many years since. I said, "She ain't listening." At first, startled, he began laughing and immediately started the next record. The relative who brought me there was mortified, but the worst was still yet to come. When I hit the front door at home, my mom immediately said, "What do you mean telling him I wasn't listening?" I was too. Now the memory of my reply to my mother is lost, but that was my first radio encounter with Mr. Parker. Since that time, I've had the privilege to be on air and in studio with Billy a countless number of times, and I've shared that story on how we first met more times than I can count. We always laughed about it, and we always had a hard time getting through it. Him taking jabs at me, and of course me taking jabs at him. But Billy and I share something else. We are both proud Shriners in Tulsa. It was my coming into his studio to publicize and talk about the annual Shrine Circus, which gave me the opportunity to come back and be on the radio with Billy Parker. We had some fun in the studio. He told me once, "You don't need a reason to come into my studio, Hoss. You have carte blanche." He is what all country disc jockeys only wish they could be. He was a genius at the segue. I would sit in the studio, and the conversation was in left field, and he could turn on a dime, introduce a spot, or the next record as smooth as glass. Everyone who's ever heard him on the radio or met him in person feels like they've known him for years. Without question, he is one of the most admired country radio personalities in the country. He retired from radio in December of 2015. Oklahoma historian Wayne McComb said in an article, "In short, Billy cares about his listeners, his advertising clients, and people in general. He is the closest man I know that never met a man he didn't like." When Billy heard my mother had passed, he called me to offer his condolences. His phone call still means a lot to me today. My life is better because I can call Billy Parker my friend. You've been listening to Oklahoma Music Legends. Tell your friends they can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, and on Google Music Play. Also find us on our website, oklahomamusiclegends.com. Click on the podcast page link, and and you can see and choose from any of our podcasts.